ESPN's Tom Luginbill is with us now. What is up, Lukes? How are you?
Hey, guys. How we doing, man?
Doing awesome, man. Doing awesome. Look, I mean, the way this Notre Dame-Ohio State game gets painted is you don't even need to watch it. Ohio State's got this thing in the bag before they even blow the whistle. As you look at it, do you see a place Notre Dame can take advantage of Ohio State?
Well, of course I do. I mean, listen, I'm a believer that destiny and stars aligning and all of those sorts of things can be very, very real for teams. And you kind of get that feeling about Notre Dame. You know, they're just not going away. Now, does Ohio State have a better roster? Probably, yeah. Do they have the ability to make more explosive plays offensively? Yes. But there's something about this Notre Dame team on defense with their special teams and their ability to rise to the occasion at the most important moments of a game. And that's very, very real to me. And I think that you got to be very careful when you're playing a team like that where everything kind of started to fall into place. Now, I'll say this. I think this is the entire X factor of this entirety of this whole game is Notre Dame is a man defense football team. So much so that they play more man defense, either cover zero, right, or cover one with a single high safety, almost 60% of the time. That's more than any other team in college football. But no other team in college football that's played Ohio State has the guts to do that, right? Because you don't want to have mismatched disadvantages with their personnel and give the quarterback easy reads and all those sorts of things. But I don't think Notre Dame is going to deviate from that. I think Notre Dame's mentality is pressure burst the pipe. We're going to affect the quarterback, try and get after him, and limit explosive plays. You know, versus man coverage, Notre Dame has only allowed 5 touchdowns in man coverage the entire season. So I look at it from the Ohio State perspective. You know who has the highest QBR in all of college football versus man coverage?
Better not be Will Howard.
It's Will Howard. and he's thrown 9 touchdowns and turned the ball over 0 times versus man coverage this year. And it's interesting because this is a complete deviation from what Texas did a week ago. Texas, their whole mindset was, we're not going to give you the easy pre-snap and post-snap read, and we're not going to give you Jeremiah Smith just running down the field. So they're going to rely on the front, and then they're going to change the picture of the back end, and they were almost entirely in some form of zone. And their thought was, we're going to make or see if Will Howard could be methodical and work through his progressions and get the ball to somebody else. Well, Emeka Egbuka, Carnell Tate, and G. Scott accounted for 17 catches versus Texas. All right, so that was a completely different operation, and Will Smith proved, even though he was under duress a little bit and it wasn't perfect, that he could have the patience to work through progressions and not lock on to Jeremiah Smith. So to me, guys, something's got to give, because maybe Notre Dame's good enough to match up with Ohio State and not allow explosive plays and not allow the ball to just turn into a track meet offensively. We're going to find out, because I don't see them deviating from who they are.
You know, I'm going to preface this by saying I don't think Riley Leonard, Lugs, is a quarterback that's going to lead you. He doesn't want to play from behind. I think that's fair. But the question came up on this panel a couple of days ago. If he wins a national championship, is he the worst playoff quarterback to ever win one? And I laughed like you did. They tried to make this argument for a little bit. I think Riley Leonard's a pretty good quarterback.
We never argued he was absolutely the worst. We just put him in the discussion among the worst.
Well, they tried to tell me that McElroy and Jake Coker were better quarterbacks than Riley Leonard.
McElroy ended up being a better quarterback.
Yeah. And I told him no chance.
And Coker was a better quarterback.
Jake Coker was not a better quarterback than Riley Leonard. Help me out here, Luke.
Yes, he was.
If you guys say Jacob Coker is better than Greg McElroy, that is going to make my day. Greg is one of my closest friends in this profession. And I will laugh my ass off.
They just said it.
Coker, I would say Coker had a better season than Greg ever had. But Coker only played the one season.
Completely different style of play.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I say I defend McElroy all the time because if you go to that SEC championship game in 2009, he didn't have to do a lot all the time, but in 2009 in that fourth quarter, he had to have a hell of a fourth quarter,
and I think
he did.
Both of them were really good, Luginbill.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously McElroy played in the NFL. Coker won a national championship.
Yeah.
My point is, Riley Leonard, from what he did at Duke to what he's doing this year, he doesn't get a lot of credit because Al Golden's defense is exceptional. Yeah. But I think Riley Leonard, for what he does with his legs, his intangibles, he is a really good college quarterback.
Yeah, great running back.
I couldn't agree. I couldn't agree more. I actually got to broadcast 2 of his games in person. One of them was the upset of Clemson on Labor Day night 2 years ago, and I think sometimes he gets the nod or gets this. There's a negative perception of him. Not because of what he can't do, but because he's not asked to do it, there's an assumption he can't. And I would make the argument that a week ago, when they forced them to have to throw the football to move the football, he came up with a ton of explosive plays in the passing game. And he made a critical throw on 3rd and 3 to put them in a position to win that football game. I just think he's undervalued. I'll say this. I think the same game plan is going to apply against Notre Dame this week that applied a week ago, and that is if Notre Dame can't run the football, we're going to make Riley Leonard beat us through the air. He did it a week ago. Could he do it against this Ohio State team? Because Ohio State defensively is the number 1 pressure football team in America without having to bring a 5th or 6th rusher. They control the line of scrimmage with 4 men. And so if you look at Notre Dame's run game, you take away the 98-yard run against Indiana, Notre Dame has not been able to run the football effectively at all. They're averaging like 3.3 yards a carry. Well, that's roughly what Ohio State allows defensively versus the run. So I do think there's going to be a tremendous amount, not pressure, but there's going to be the onus of the offense is going to fall on his shoulders. But it might fall on his shoulders in the passing game. And Lance, to what you said, they're a team that's been so accustomed to being in 2nd and 3, 3rd and 2. They don't want to be in 3rd and 7+. They don't want to be in 2nd and 10. That's not their game plan.
Season 3 of Monday Morning Live coming soon. That's Tom Luginbill. We kick off your football Mondays every day live right here, and Luginbill's with us now with his middle relief out of the bullpen facial hair growing. I love the thicker mustache you have today, by the way.
Oh, my wife is so mad at me. So she met me for lunch yesterday, and I was just goofing around with my trimmer. She looks at me, and she's like, "What did you do?" So now I'm thinking, what did I do? Like, did I do something? I didn't realize it, and I'm in trouble.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what are you talking about? She goes, your face. What did you do? And I'm like, don't worry about it. I got college football live tomorrow. I'll trim it up. I'll be good. It's just a one day.
Luke, look at the text I sent you and tell me if your wife would appreciate the advertisement of the one I just sent you. Yeah.
So I'm looking at it right now because I'm actually on my phone talking to you guys. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
That was a legitimate ad.
Those are real ads.
That was real?
Yeah, that was like in Time magazine back in the late 70s.
Yeah.
It's a different world, man.
We're all going to pretend that exchange did not happen.
10:15 Central Time, so about 30 minutes
this
from now.
was the Mad Men. You saw Mad Men. Great show. But this is Draper and everybody sitting around saying, man, this will fly. This will sell.
Yep. Okay, so 30 minutes. We'll get into those. Luginbill, set your alerts and come back. So I wanted to ask you, what happened? I mean, Notre Dame's got offensive line injuries, but it was the offensive line injuries of Ohio State, which was supposed to derail this championship season. Seth at center, the tackle, they moved him around, but I haven't seen any fall off. All of a sudden, that offensive line is held up.
Okay, so a couple of things that have changed, particularly since the Michigan game. Chip Kelly and Ryan Day, I think, did a really good job of moving away from their inside and outside zone game and becoming more of a gap run scheme so that they're setting up angle blocks, they're blocking down, pulling. They're not just asking guys to mano-a-mano block guys up. And if you look at them versus Michigan, that's what they asked them to do, and they got their tail kicked up front. So that's number one. Number two, they have chosen to move the launch point and change where Will Howard is far more often on a regular basis, whether that's bootlegs or nakeds, whether that's direct rollouts, to try to help him protect himself better. And then I think on top of it, they have really, really pushed the ball downfield as good as anybody in college football, but they've done it quickly. And this is where that man coverage discussion comes in. So in the college football playoff, just the playoff, on completions of 20 yards or more for Ohio State, 20 yards or more completions during the regular season, Ohio State completed 52% of those passes, which is actually a big number. That's a good number because that's a low percentage throw. In the playoff, 88%. I mean, that doesn't happen. That's a statistical anomaly. And so I think that they've done a really good job of working around the offensive line by just subtly tweaking some things and then taking more shots quickly downfield, and their guys have made plays.
Do you want to ask your question? I want to get some entertainment picks from Luginbill.
Yeah, just real quickly, there was a lot of discussion about recruits, Alabama and Georgia recruits, and I think you were talking about it on your social media. Maybe you reposted something earlier this week. The high school football in our state has risen up to where, not per capita, just straight numbers.
Yeah,
like we're in Alabama, we're fifth behind the big boys, right? California, Texas, Florida, Georgia, right?
Yeah, and the piece you're referencing, because everybody always talks about the big three, right? California, Texas, and Florida. And I can tell you the big three is not California, Texas, and Florida. It's Texas, Florida, and Georgia. The most underrated state over the last 20 years of not just personnel and players, but players that have panned out, right, is the state of Alabama.
Wow.
In fact, it's hard to find a close second. And I'm going back to the 06 class. All right, so we're going way back there. But some people may say, well, that's crazy. Why is Georgia why would you say Georgia is stronger than California? Well, California is made up of 38 million people, all right? But if you look at the backgrounds of the people living in the state, okay, close to 60% of the people living in that state don't play football. They play other sports. If you look at the state of Georgia, everybody plays football, everybody. And the investment in high school football in that state far outweighs the investment that we've had in California over the last 20 years.
Yeah, and I would say, just off of the backside of that, Hugh Freeze has done Kalen DeBoer is new, but Hugh Freeze has done a really good job of setting up camp in Alabama high schools recruiting. Nick Saban was really good in Georgia and Louisiana and all over the country. And Hugh came in at the end of the Saban era and said, I'd like to win the state of Alabama. And they've done a really good job recruiting in Alabama.
It's critical, and it's not easy because you're battling Alabama all the time for the state's best, so it's an uphill battle. But while Alabama is casting their line in other bordering states to complement their roster, you might be able to catch them with their eye off the ball a little bit if you're spending all of your time in state. And that's not to say that Auburn's not going to have a heavy presence in Georgia; they always have. Florida as well. Just the competition is now ramped up, right? I mean, it's not just Alabama and Auburn in the state of Alabama anymore for players. It's Clemson, it's Florida, it's Florida State, it's Miami, it's LSU, it's Tennessee. You're warding off a lot of suitors.
Ohio State came to Birmingham, got a big DB. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. Yep.
All right. ESPN's Tom Luginbill, do you have any tips for us on viewing now that you've
American Prime Evil on Netflix is fantastic.
I finished it last night. I will say this, Luginbill. I said it's one of the most violent series I've ever seen. I thought the first 3 or 4 episodes really good. The last 2 kind of tailed off. Boy, the Mormons were ruthless. Everybody was ruthless.
I'll tell you what, if you're a BYU fan, you ain't going to like that show.
Yeah.
Hey, how did Brigham Young not get canceled? I know it's a religion, but my gosh.
It's a long time ago, too.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. I thought it was a great tale. I kind of felt like it was like 1883 with violence.
I mean, so The Revenant, the same guy behind it, Mark L. Smith, and then Peter Berg was the guy that directed all 6 episodes. Yeah. But the scenes, you could tell it had a lot of the fingerprints of The Revenant on it. But dude, I didn't realize arrows went that fast. Did you?
I know, right? Or it could go through skulls
Yeah.
like it was no big deal. Trying to think too.
So let me ask you this: I'm sure you've seen Landman, right?
Oh, it's fantastic.
How bad are the women in Taylor Sheridan's life for the writing, the way he writes women into his series? If that makes any sense. Like, there is no way a 17-year-old daughter would talk to her dad like that girl does. There's no way a wife would talk to her husband the way she does.
I know. I'm just trying to get my 17-year-old daughter to talk to me. That's
enough.
my focal point. That's my focal point right now. I thought Landman was really, really good. And then, you know what? I actually went to the movies because have you seen Den of Thieves?
No, I never saw the first one.
Tyler?
So the first one, it's really good. You'll love it. You have to watch it. It's fantastic. It's a heist movie. It's really good. And so I went and saw Den of Thieves too. That was actually really good. Had a little bit more of a twist. And, so I recommend that one too.
I really liked the first one. I felt like it was more gritty.
Okay.
The second one goes for like a European diamond heist kind of feel. So
I agree.
If that's your taste, then you'll like the second one as well.
I love a good European diamond
Very
heist.
well
That's right.
said.
Yeah.
Very well said.
Tyler's a smart
Well,
guy.
hey, watch this. Look at how many movies did you go to last year in the theater, Tyler?
So just for movies released in 2024, it was around 135. But then I went to a lot of like re-releases as well.
So what was the total number?
Damn.
135 new releases.
I don't know, 160 something.
160
I
times
saw
in the
a lot of
theater.
re-releases, and then there were some films that I went
Did you
to
see the
like,
Jaws
multiple times.
re-release?
I didn't get to see the
Damn,
Jaws
when
re-release.
was that? I didn't know. They wasn't around here.
It was the third week in August, and I went, and it was awesome.
Okay, you and I this summer are going to do the 50th anniversary podcast for Jaws. I've already got it lined up.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Best movie ever made.
You know, for Abraham Lincoln, it was a one-off finding him in the Ford Theater that night. If you want to assassinate Tyler, all you got to do is, I mean, he's going to be there every other
It'll
day.
also be in a theater. It's just-
He must have some discretionary income. I mean, holy smokes, it ain't cheap going to the movies these days.
There's an AMC membership now where you can see
Oh,
3
I have it with
movies a
Regal.
week.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Unlimited movies for $23 a month.
Oh, it's so nice. I would not
It
be
is
able
nice.
to cover all the movies I do otherwise.
They're losing money on Tyler for sure.
Yeah.
Luginbill, thank you. Enjoy the championship game. Always good to see your face and have a conversation.
Absolutely, guys. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the game Monday night.
All right, buddy. You too. Take care. Tom Luginbill with us at Tom Luginbill on social media, ESPN. He was on the JohnstonRVCenter.com hotline.